Welcome again to our YouTube channel, Bold and Faithful Perspective. Many people of faith, or many people profess a faith, and more especially the Christian faith, have what we call performed faith or performed Christianity. What do I mean by that? These are a type of Christians or people of faith that are more of religion than lived faith, or a lived life of faith. They are those we call credo Christians, those who are born into Christian families. Credo Catholics, those who are born into the Catholic faith. They were raised in the church. They were raised in a faith-based household. They were brought up by a faithful family, a family that was so religious, a family that was practicing a faith, a Christian faith, either Muslim faith, whatever faith it is, they were just practicing the faith. So they were brought up in the family of a practicing community. They have a church to go to, they have a community they go to. So they were brought up in that. So they grew up going to church, attending church services, attending church masses, joining youth groups, Sunday school and all that. They went to Catholic schools, they went to Christian schools, they joined praise and worship groups. They served in Sunday masses and services. They attended meetings, liturgies. And indeed, they observed, for example, for those who are Catholic, they observed Catholic seasons or Christian seasons, Lent, Easter, Christmas, charity work, giving out of alms. They were involved in everything that is ritual Christian practice. They were involved in everything that is Christian in their life. However, all these they were involved in, they were doing. They were performing. They did all this. If it's Lent, we observe. If it's Easter, we celebrate. If it's Christmas, we commemorate. If it's to do charity work, it's a calling. Let me do charity work. If it's going to church, yes, that's what we do. We go to church. If it's praying the rosary, yes, I grew up in a family where we are praying rosary, so therefore it's necessary for me to pray the rosary. So they were brought up in doing things that are Christian, in doing things that are faith-based, but they were never taught how to live that faith. They were taught how to do. They were taught how to behave. They were taught how to look like outside there. They were taught even how to dress well, how to respect, how to be obedient. But they were never taught how to live obedience, how to live the faith. They were never taught how to live the faith that they profess. Indeed, it is true. Many people of faith know how to pray. They know how to fast. They know how to behave. They know even how to dress. They know the language to use. All these things are performed Christian things. They qualify like a performed Christianity way of life, but not how to live the faith. Somebody may pretend to be humble, but the person is not living a humble life. It is to portray humility. It is to perform humility, but somebody is not living humility. Somebody will portray respect, but somebody within is not respectful. But because demanded of this person, he will have to do it. But it's not living that respectful life. Living and being a Christian is of a higher calling. It is not a performed Christianity, but a lived Christianity. To live to love, and to live to be loved. When one is having this, what I call performed faith, performed Christianity, this one individual is very vulnerable. Is very vulnerable, especially when suffering knocks at the door. When suffering knocks at the door of this Christian who has lived or who has lived to perform Christian actions but has not internalized this faith, this person is very vulnerable. When suffering knocks at the door, the faith falls apart. Faith falls apart when suffering knocks at the door. Performed Christianity will collapse, will disappear. These performed Christians disappear on very many, especially when prayers seem not to change anything. Then they will start asking questions. Where was God when this was happening? I encountered a friend of mine who lost a mother. And his prayer always was that God may sustain the mother, that God may cure the mother. The mother was very faithful. The mother was extremely faithful in the Catholic faith, devout Christian, and raised the family in that Christian faith. And they had this mother as a beacon of faith, a beacon of hope, a standard for their faith. And this man was praying for the mother to be cured, at least even if for the next 2 years, not more than that. At least for this young man to finish establishing his company and show the mother a better life to live. To give the mother life of sufficiency. To give the mother good standards of life that they yearned for a long time. And here the mother was in the hospital. The young man is crying to God, praying to God. For the mother to be cured. And everybody knew what the intentions of the young man were. For she prayed with the community, she shared her feelings with the community. But she was open to the reality of life. But the people around her were the source of discouragement when the prayers seemed not to be answered according to them when the mother passed away. They started asking questions. Instead of encouraging this young man, they will come and tell the young man, it is the plan of God. But some, they were questioning the faith. The lady was extremely faithful in the church. Why did God let her go? Why did God allow her to die? In their questioning on why did God allow her to die, they made the young man so sad. Some of them, they felt faith is just vanity of vanities, just a waste of time. All those countless prayers they prayed, they counted for nothing according to them. All their efforts counted for nothing. Why would God do that to this young man, to take away the mother from him? And he was the only child that she had. And now this young man is left behind in the world with no parent, because the lady was a single mother. Why would God do that? To take away the only relative that this young man had. They questioned that. The young man suffered. And he walked away from the church for 6 good months, not going to church, trying to recover from the loss of the mother. But deep down, he had a sense that God still was walking with him. But at some moments, he will sit back and ask questions. How will God do that? Taking away my mother, who was extremely devoted, extremely faithful. With the passing of the father of this young man, his mother never remarried. She remained a widow and took care of this young man, single-handedly educating him, sacrificing everything. And when the young man was establishing a company that would help them to live a better life after the mother had sacrificed everything, God takes her away from him. How could God do that? But deep down, he still believed God was walking with him. But many people around him discouraged him by their fervent questions, constant, like the faith that they had in God was not helping at all. In Scripture, we see the example of the story of Job. Job lived his faith. He never just performed his faith. He lived his faith. Even with prayers and faithfulness, things in his life got worse. They got worse for him. He lost everything. But his faith remained. When this young man was sharing with me the pains he was going through for the 6 months that he walked away from the church, I still saw the faith in him, a faith that he lived silently, not a faith that he performed, a faith that he understood from within. I remember the story of Job, who lost everything. This young man had lost everything because the mother is no longer there, and he was working hard, at least to make her mother comfortable, and the mother now is gone. And looking forward is like everything has come to the end. Why should I continue struggling? The only person that I loved so dearly, the person who loved me so dearly, is no more, is gone. Everything is vanity of vanities, useless. We talked for a long time. The man is still faithful, he is strong in faith, even with those questions. Faith comes from within. He is not a man who went to church every Sunday. It's not the man who attended every meeting, every youth group, every liturgy, every meeting, seminars. It's not a person who was extremely observant of the seasons of Christian faith. No. It's a man who lived a faith of conviction from within. Yes, he will go to church. He will do everything that the church may want, but he was not doing it for the sake of doing it. No, he was doing it because he believed in doing them, not because they were required of him to do. It is important at this moment when we remember those people who are out there searching for faith, looking for something to hold on to. Faith. When the world is disappointing, there are many people looking for faith to hold on to something. May we teach them how to live the faith, not how to perform the faith. May we focus on teaching our young people, teaching the flock on how to live the faith instead of performing the faith. That what we do in our faith, the actions we take because of our faith, is a result of internal relationship with God. That what we do in faith comes from the abundance of love for our God, not because it is an obligation that is demanded of us by our religion. Not because it's an obligation that I have to go to church every Sunday, but because I love to encounter God by going to church. It's not because it's required of me to do the charity work, but because it comes from within. I love to help. I love people. I have to be of good help to people. I love to. Not because it's demanded of me. Not to pray for people because they have asked me to pray for them, but because I love to pray for people. That out of the abundance of love for my God, I am able to do things that are Christian, not because Christianity demands of me to do such and such and such, but because I love God from within, and out of my love for God, I live that true Christian faith. That out of my relationship with God, I yearn to be with Him every day in prayer. I look forward to be with Him every Sunday in His Word and in the Eucharist. That I yearn every Sunday to encounter my God within the community of the believers. Not because it's demanded of me that I have to confess my sins, but because I feel the pain of my sinfulness that I confess my sins. Not because an obligation that I have to confess my sins. No, but because I feel the pain of my sinfulness that I go to confess. For us to live a faithful life, to live a life of faith, not a performed faith, not a performed Christianity, we must have a relationship with God. That whatever we do is for the good of our relationship with God. The question is, do you have a relationship with your God? And we may continue to pray that our outward actions of faith come from the abundance of love for God. Do you have that love for God and that personal relationship with God that moves you into action to live a Christian life? That the Christianity that you profess comes from the love of God, not because it's an obligation or because you found yourself in a Christian family. Because there are very many people in the world who do good, It is possible to do good without faith. It is possible to live a clean human life without faith. So living a good life, a clean life, doing good in society does not mean that you are a Christian. No. There are so many people without faith who do good, live a good life, a morally upright life, but without faith in God. We have so many people in the world, even atheists. They do charity work, they help people. We have decent people out there. They know how to love. They know how to cherish life, how to be decent, how to be a good human being, even better than Christians themselves in the world. But they have no faith in anything. Doing good, living a good life, doing charity work, living a decent life, being a good human being, does not qualify you to be a Christian. What qualifies those good actions to be Christian is your relationship with God. That whatever you do comes out of love for God. Therefore, doing good is not the same as being a person of faith. Faith should drive you to do good, not doing good to prove that you have faith. Of course, we know that faith without actions is dead. That means you must have faith first. So faith moves you to act, not acting to prove faith. But faith should move you to act, not acting to prove that you have faith. That will be a show off. That will be a display, not living the faith. And if you are doing good in order to display your faith, in order to show your faith, it becomes sinful because it comes from sense of ego. You want to prove something. The driving force should be your relationship with God. The driving force should be the lived faith within first from your heart. That faith moves you to do good, to be a decent man, to be a good human being, to do charity work out of your love for God, having that personal relationship with God. Therefore, people of faith have to live the faith, not perform the faith. Faith in Christ or in God or in a divine Father is a way of life. Modus vivendi, a way of life. Christian actions must flow freely from the conviction of faith. Christian actions must flow from the loving relationship that you have with God. May we walk away from performed faith, performed Christianity, and embrace lived Christianity, lived faith. May God bless you and embrace you. You may make sense from what I said, but remember this. Your good actions for the faithful person must flow from your relationship with God. Your actions must not be there to prove your faith, but your faith should move you to actions. But if you are doing good in order to prove that you are a faithful person, that brings a sense of ego, and then it becomes sinful. That you want to display how faithful you are. No, let it flow from your faith. That your faith moves you to good actions, to good acts. May we try to live the faith, not to perform the faith. To live Christianity, not to perform Christianity. That regardless of what happens, that faith remains the way it did to Job, and the way it remained in this young man, even after he lost everything in the mother and was almost losing hope. Faith remained. May God bless you and embrace you again.